So if you start getting into conversations around defending your budget or defending the need for you to exist as a profession, like it's very hard to get from there to, well, if I'm defending the marketing function, then soon you'll be defending whether this business is alive or not.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the biggest businesses in the world, they are all branded goods businesses. If you look at that list 60, 70 years ago, just pull the S&P 500. There would have been commodities businesses, oil and gas, telecoms, etc. Today, they are branded goods companies. So whether that's packaged goods or the Amazons or the Disneys or the Apples, they're all branded goods companies and pharmaceuticals, which are brands in and of themselves. So I don't think you have to prove whether marketing is good or not, or necessary or not. That's already been proven, I think, to my colleague's point earlier. What you have to do is be able to understand exactly how that works, and that's your mantle.
So I had to do a lot of work of kicking down doors that I was not invited in. I think you heard the story once. Like, one of the biggest meetings at Nedbank is called the Transactional Balance Sheet Forum. That's basically where...
It sounds riveting.
I mean, but that meeting is actually where we decide how we're going to spend our balance sheet and where. Marketing was not in that room at all. I invited myself. I was like, I'm going to be in that room. And what was interesting when I got into that room, because you come from a P&L background, I mean, I could see some of these risk people going, how does she even know this stuff, you know? I could relate to what they were talking about.
It's so cliched. I'm desperately trying to find vocabulary that isn't this. But the idea of a partnership model means you're on equal footing. So it's two different sides of a cracked egg, if you like. And you have to, both have to complement the other. As soon as it's kind of servant master, it's really difficult to get great work out of that creative, because most of the time they're afraid of you as a client, and their incentive becomes retaining the business, not doing great work, right? Keeping the client happy. And I like being happy, believe me, but actually I'm not paid to be happy. I'm paid to create, co-create great work.
What's been great, though, for marketing, and I guess not just at Nedbank, in general, probably in banking and other financial services and other services, is digital marketing has actually allowed us to be a lot more clearer in terms of what the value of marketing is. So what COVID did is that it accelerated people moving from branches and all of that, and obviously moving into online digital sales. So what happened with that? If you see we're releasing our results next week. And I mean, even if you look at our integrated report from mid-year, already 70% of our sales come from digital, and that is led by marketing.
There's also a great story, the piece of work that we're working on now, where one of our agencies went to the brewery, met the brewer, and just spent a full day with this very passionate brewer. And when the brewer explained the process, it wasn't a single brewer, it was a brewer and a food scientist, and it was a group of them, but very passionate people. And they described in the developing of the product, the amount of iterations they went through, and just the craft and the love and the passion that went into it. And a whole campaign was born out of that conversation, because they took the time to drive to LA, which is lower Alberton, to go to... It's not that glamorous. and spend time with the brewer. And I think that to me was a learning over the last 12 months.
The thing that is increasingly freaking me out is digital media. Globally now it's fairly accepted that 15 to 20% of your digital media is ad fraud. And we're just okay with that. It's like 1 in 5 rands or dollars is going to a bot farm, or it's known waste. That's if you're doing your job well. I mean, how on earth is that acceptable? So what you see in industry conversations like this one is digital is the future, and that's where the consumption environment is, and that's where people are. I buy all of that. There's not nearly enough clients going, do I fundamentally trust this as a medium? How do I know my brand isn't? You talk about things like brand safety. The degree to which the media agency and the supplier is making sure my brand doesn't pop up in ISIS recruitment websites, right? Because I have a brand that's very popular in that part of the world, is very real. And courtesy of my IT team, I can't check, right? Those sites are blocked for me. I make light of it, but because we have more data in digital media, it's more corruptible in terms of telling the story that's in the interest of the media owner to tell, rather than the right story. And so you get bamboozled with billions of impressions and reach and attention minutes and the like. But the degree to which that's very real or important or correlated to non-digital media metrics is frankly in its infancy still. And being able just to follow the rands from you to the media to the often the integrator onto an ad tech platform, onto an ad server, man, and the more we pull at those threads, the more freaked out I'm getting that's not the panacea we've been promised.
And there's a great book it's an old book by this guy, Benjamin Zander, who's the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic or something. And he takes that view that you start from the positive outlook. Like that's your ingoing assumption. He gave all his students A's or something in the class, and then the students lived up to that A. That was sort of his philosophy. It's quite it's nice. Quite out there now.
Yeah.
And that is sort of the way I think I deal with agency relationships. And it's like you got to make it work, because 90% of the time when the work is bad, it's because the brand positioning isn't clear. 99%, or the insight is bad, or it's like some rushed campaign. It's like not a well thought through strategy. That is almost always the case. It is very rare that it's on the creative side. That's been in my experience at least.
To ex-marketers, so they've which is unusual in South Africa, but not really across the rest of the world. A lot of the path to CEO globally is actually via the marketing function, and the reason for that is it's the only function that really looks forward. And so, just for a second, finance by its definition is a record of transactions that have taken place. Your income statement, your balance sheet, those are all historic documents. I'm not saying they're not important; they're critical, but they're not future focused. Your operations function manages the engine room of the business today. HR, IT are enablers to make sure that the right resources are in the right place for the right reasons at the right time. So the only function that has a foot in the present and a foot in the future is marketing. So as a determinant of future business validity and growth and profitability, and make sure it does good things in the world, that makes the world better, that remit falls solely to marketing, whether you like it or not, because no one else has that brief.